Listen, 2025 was supposed to be another Honda nightmare, another year of struggling in the midfield, another season of watching from the sidelines while Ducati and KTM feasted. But then something extraordinary happened. Johann Zarco pulled off a rain-soaked masterclass at Le Mans. Podiums started stacking up, and by season's end, Honda had clawed its way out of the lowest concessions bracket, marking the clearest sign of a manufacturer's resurrection in years. Meanwhile, one Marquez brother was painting masterpieces on track, and his teammate? Well, he was quietly proving that the old guard still isn't finished. This is the story of MotoGP's greatest comeback of 25-5. Let's break it down. Right, so here's what everyone missed about Honda's 2025 turnaround. And I mean everyone, including paddock skeptics. This wasn't just about slapping new wings on the bike or bolting a freshly tuned engine between the frame rails. No, this was organizational, systematic, and frankly, it was humbling. Luca Marini, who arrived at HRC as Marque's replacement in 2024 with virtually no other options on the table, became something the Japanese manufacturer desperately needed: a thinking rider, an analytical mind. And that's the key insight here. Marini explicitly stated, and I want to emphasize this because it's critical, that Honda's methodology for analyzing data before and after race weekends is now at a very high level. That's not hype. That's a factory rider saying the engineering department has fundamentally transformed. What does that actually mean on track? It means faster iteration cycles. It means they're not guessing anymore. If a setup doesn't work in FP1, the engineers aren't hoping it'll magically gel by FP3. They're pulling the data, finding the problem, whether it's chassis stiffness, engine mapping, or aerodynamic balance, and implementing solutions with surgical precision. That's elite-level operation, and frankly, Honda was hemorrhaging that capability for years. The bike itself? The improvements were real. The engine, that brutal point-and-squirt power plant that's defined Honda's character since the V4 era, finally found equilibrium. Better mid-range delivery. More usable power without that knife-edge aggression that had snapped the rear wheel under acceleration. The chassis got more compliant without sacrificing corner speed. And crucially, they addressed what's been Honda's Achilles heel: tire management over distance. A 2.5 lap race used to be a nightmare for HRC. By mid-season, they were competitive across the entire stint. Marini was explicit about the structural shift. We have more people, more engineers. That's not sexy, but it's honest. Bigger brain trust, more voices in the engineering meetings, more perspectives on problems. The method improved even more, in his words, and there's humility there too. We can do another step. No arrogance, just acknowledgement that they've climbed out of a crater, but there's still Mount Everest ahead. And here's the thing that separates winning from sustained winning. Honda recognized the inflection point. They got linked to Jorge Martin, Pedro Acosta, massive names. The paddock smelled the opportunity to join a resurgent manufacturer. Instead of panic buying a named driver, Honda extended Marini. They're investing in continuity. They're saying, we know what we're building here, and we need stability. That's championship-winning mentality right there. 4 podiums in 2025, a wet weather masterclass from Zarco at Le Mans, the first factory Honda victory in almost 2 years, and most critically, elevation out of rank D in the concession standings. That's not just stats. That's the sports regulatory body saying, you're competitive again. It's a badge of honor. So let's rewind through 2025 and understand how we got here, because this story isn't about one brilliant weekend, it's about momentum. Early season, Honda was still finding its feet. The new data methodology was in place, but the fruits weren't immediate. Then came the weather god's intervention at the French Grand Prix, and Johann Zarco, Zarco, demonstrated why experience and adaptability still count in this sport. In the wet, sensory feel matters more than aerodynamic perfection. The bike's raw feedback becomes paramount. Zarco's read the conditions like he was reading a book, made minute throttle adjustments on corner exit that looked effortless but were absolutely premeditated. That victory wasn't luck, it was vindication that Honda's package, when paired with a skilled operator, could still sing. But here's where it gets really interesting. 3 additional dry weather podiums followed. Not 1, not 2, 3. That's the data analysis methodology paying dividends. In the dry, where setup precision and tire management dominate, HRC's engineers were now, for the first time in years, able to extract performance consistently. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Alex Marquez and that championship runner-up finish. The younger Marquez brother, piloting a Gresini-run GP24 Ducati, absolutely demolished expectations. 3 Grand Prix victories, consistently the closest challenger to his older brother Mark throughout races. And when the season concluded, he'd secured second place in the standings, his best Premier Class result since his Moto2 championship in 2019. Here's what's fascinating about Alex's season. He's downplaying it. Literally said his lower class championships held equal value to his MotoGP runner-up, but then he immediately acknowledged the reality it's more important for the people. And he's right, because MotoGP is the pinnacle. A Moto2 title is brilliant, but it's a rung on the ladder. A MotoGP championship runner-up finish? That's you sitting at the table with the absolute elite. That's vindication. What Alex did in 2025 was methodical, not flashy, consistent. 3 wins spread across the season means he wasn't a one-off hero. He was reliably fast, reliably strong in the championship fight. And the fact that he was regularly Mark's closest challenger in wheel-to-wheel battles tells you everything about his racecraft. He wasn't getting gapped in traffic. He was there, breathing down his brother's neck, hunting for opportunities. The meta-narrative here? While Honda was rebuilding its engineering infrastructure, while Marini was providing crucial feedback on data methodologies, the actual championship fight was being decided by a team that believed in consistency. Gresini, with that GP24 package, played it smart, set up for reliability, chased points week in, week out, let the big names self-destruct. And Alex, with his analytical approach inherited from his brother but tempered with his own philosophy, executed that strategy flawlessly. Now, let's address the curveball, Nicolo Bulega's mid-season surprise debut. Alex Lowe's the Superbike ace was at Jerez for a Michelin test when Boulega got his first taste of the MotoGP machine, and Lowe's assessment was brutal. He thought Boulega wouldn't make his debut because 20 damp laps at Jerez, 20 laps, followed by a jump straight into Portimao was basically setting the kid up to fail. Lowe's knows this territory. He did something similar in 2016, subbing at Silverstone and Misano. He lived the struggle of zero preparation. But here's the thing, Boulega did show up. At Portimao, conditions were chaotic. Spitting rain in practice, FP2 basically non-existent, crash in the sprint. 0 time to acclimate. It was, in Lowe's words, more of a well done for a good year. And what do you think? A victory lap wrapped in a MotoGP opportunity. Yet, Lowe's, and I think he nailed this, emphasized that you don't know how many chances you get on a MotoGP bike. So Boulega took the shot. He's a strong rider, World Superbike runner-up. The transition to MotoGP would be massive, going from a more stable, forgiving platform to a machine that demands absolute precision. But at least he got his feet wet. At least he collected data. At least when 2026 rolls around and he's a Ducati test rider, he'll have those 2 races to reference. Lowe's parting shot? If you put Boulega on a Ducati for 2 or 3 years in MotoGP, he'd be pretty strong and consistent. That's high praise from someone who knows the game intimately. Not a world beater out of the box, but a solid, methodical operator. The kind of rider who'd rack up podiums over a season. So zoom out for a second. What does 2025 actually tell us? First, manufacturing matters. Honda proved that organization, investment in brainpower, and systematic methodology can reverse a downward spiral. They weren't suddenly faster because of one magic bullet part. They were faster because they learned how to learn. That's the difference between a manufacturer in crisis and a manufacturer on the comeback trail. Second, consistency beats spectacle. Alex Marquez didn't win the championship. He wasn't the flashiest rider, but he was the second best, and he was reliable. In an era where attrition is low and everyone's running race-winning bikes, the margins are millimeters. Alex understood that and executed it. Third, opportunity is fleeting. Boulega's story is bittersweet. He got a shot, but without proper preparation. He'll likely have better success integrating into MotoGP next season once he's had a full winter of testing and development work. The lesson? Timing matters as much as talent in this sport. So here's the reality of 2025. Honda crawled out of the ashes. They proved that a factory with patience, the right data infrastructure, and a committed rider can rebuild faster than anyone expected. Alex Marquez cemented his legacy with a runner-up championship finish. And somewhere in the paddock, a young Italian is preparing for 2026, learning from his brief taste of the premier class. But here's the real question that keeps me up at night. With Honda on the rise, Marini providing crucial feedback for 26 and Alex Marquez hungry to turn that runner-up result into something bigger, can anyone stop this resurgence next season? Or is Honda about to dominate the midfield for years to come? And more importantly, will Boulega actually deliver the goods once he gets a full season? Or will 2025 be the high watermark of his MotoGP career? Drop your predictions in the comments below. Who's your championship favorite heading into 2016? I read every single one of your takes. Let's go.